Quazi here. So last week, I came across an interview that instantly grabbed my attention. Not because it was clickbait or some wild conspiracy, but because it was coming from one of the sharpest scientific minds alive today. Professor Donald Hoffman, a cognitive scientist at the University of California. He has decades of research, mathematical proofs, computer simulations, peer-reviewed papers, collaborations with top physicists and neuroscientists. In this interview on the Diary of a CEO podcast, he was trying to answer one of the biggest questions in all of science. What is reality? And honestly, his answer gave me goosebumps.
We should think of space-time as just a virtual reality headset. That's the way we perceive in our game of life.
And when you say space-time, you mean the thing that I'm perceiving with my eyes and ears and senses right now?
That's right. Even this hard table is just a VR object. And the whole setting that we're in here right now is just a virtual reality.
Now, what really stood out to me when I was watching this was the eerie similarity between what he was saying and actual ancient yogic knowledge that's thousands of years old. See, in Vedanta, this has always been called Maya, the grand illusion that veils the real. Yoga has always taught that your senses don't actually show you ultimate reality, right? The whole goal of yoga is to transcend the senses. They only show you what's useful for survival. Because the real self, which the yogis call the Atman, is beyond body, beyond mind, and even beyond time itself. So as I was listening to Hoffman, I couldn't help but feel this strange sense of recognition. Here he was, a modern scientist armed with mathematics and neuroscience, essentially validating what yogis and rishis have been pointing to for thousands of years. And here's where it gets crazier. Hoffman said that we are getting close to editing the code of this reality, literally bending the rules of space and time, which, if you think about it, sounds a lot like the yogic idea of siddhis. People who had extraordinary capabilities because they were able to see beyond the veil of Maya. So, in today's video, I'm going to share with you 5 of the most important revelations that Hoffman shares that appears in 1,000-year-old ancient texts that will allow you to shape your own reality. So with that, let's get started. So the very first idea that Hoffman talks about with Stephen Butler in the podcast is the fact that, or the idea that reality is a virtual reality VR headset. So what does he say? He says, what we see, object, space, time, is not objective reality, but a user interface designed by evolution for survival, not truth. So everything that we're seeing right now is an illusion, right? It is created and perceived in a way that is beneficial to our survival. It is not the real nature of reality itself. So everything that we're perceiving, they are through the 5 senses. However, what you perceive with your 5 senses is not similar to what someone else perceives with their 5 senses, right? So different people at different levels of consciousness. If you look at enlightened yogis who can see beyond the veil, their 5 senses may continue on perceiving reality, but they actually, there's a 6th sense, right? People call it the 6th sense. They're able to activate that and perceive reality as it actually is. So when we perceive reality as we see it, hear it, smell it, taste it, touch it, what you have to notice is what we're perceiving is not reality as it is. It is always colored by the lens of our experience. So a lot of modern teachers have talked about this concept of the reticular activating system, your RAS, which is an organ in your brain that basically filters out things. And so 2 people could be looking at one thing, but they could be perceiving it completely differently. For example, if you have this insecurity where you don't feel good about yourself, you're always going to be hearing other people, when you see them laughing, you're going to perceive maybe that they're laughing at you, right? So your insecurity will color your experience of reality. So ask yourself now, what you're experiencing right now, what you're focusing on, what your attention goes to, is it in line with what you actually would like to experience? Is it actually what the true nature of reality is? Chances are it's not. Chances are it is colored by past experiences. So in this manner, we continue to experience our past. We continue to live our past. And so if you're someone who's been experiencing this sense of a Groundhog Day where reality just keeps repeating itself, every single week ends the same way, you go through the weekend and then you get the Sunday scaries and then the week repeats again and again, years and years, decades and decades, and nothing has changed, chances are it's your perception that hasn't changed. Okay? Reality is continually changing, it's evolving, but your perception keeps it stuck because you keep trying to look for the old in the new. Okay? So in order to shift your reality, and quantum physics talks about this, right? Whatever you give attention to, that is what materializes in reality, the observation principle. In order to shift your reality, what fundamentally needs to happen is you need to change your perception. And that's what we're going to be talking about in number 5, in how to edit the code. Okay? So the second part to this is that Hoffman says you are not your avatar. What does he mean by that? Well, this may sound kind of self-explanatory, but he says, you are not just a player inside the VR game, you are the programmer of the game itself. And so if we look back at the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna tells Arjuna that the self is eternal. It is only the body that keeps on changing form. Okay? So there is that which that is beyond body and mind, that observes, that watches. So in my last video, I talked about this in depth, the state of pure awareness, the I am. And to my surprise, Hoffman actually talks about this. So when I heard him talk about this, I was very, very taken aback because he was talking about, you know, Hoffman as I am this scientist, I am this person. But what happens when you go beyond personhood? Because personhood is always subject to change. It is the nature of material reality, right? But when you go beyond it, what is that which that never changes, that is, was, and always will be? That watching within you that you had when you were a kid, that watching that you have today, and that watching you will have forever. That is timeless, right? That is the pure state of I am. So within the slab, the foundation of that I am, we start accumulating identity. Okay? So we start accumulating, I am this kind of person who experiences this kind of reality. And so when you have different areas of your life where you would like to experience something, let's say you have a relationship, well, you view yourself to be a certain kind of person within that relationship. You view yourself to be a certain kind of person in your business. You view yourself to be a certain kind of person in your career, whatever it may be. When you go to the gym, you view yourself as a certain person. In regards to your health, you view yourself as a certain person. So all of these areas of your life you would like to make an improvement in, you view yourself to be a certain kind of person. So the goal initially is to go beyond personhood, right? So yogis spend their whole lives trying to go beyond this. And so if you'd like to create on top of that, then that becomes a conscious choice. And when you shift your perception, you shift how you view yourself and your reality, that's when you begin seeing profound changes happen. You start editing the code itself. The next point that I found super, super interesting is he says that science will never reach 100% truth. So what does he say exactly? He says all scientific theories are built on assumptions. No matter how far we go, we'll always understand 0% of ultimate reality. Now, I want you to take a moment to ponder on this for a second. We make assumptions because they make life easier to live. We hold certain beliefs because otherwise it would be very, very difficult to live, right? Because we've been taught to live in the mind where everything logically makes sense. So this character has been taught to live in the illusion and live in it and survive in it for bodily survival. But we've never gotten in touch with what is beyond character, what is beyond this person, right? So we've never seen the true nature of reality, okay? So in ancient Taoist teaching, it says the Tao that can be spoken is not the eternal Tao. That which that can be spoken and perceived by the senses is by its nature changing, up and down, okay? So that which that can be seen, observed, heard, felt, tasted, that is always changing. That is the world of the senses. So when you withdraw from the senses and get into watching, what is there? That is true nature itself. So when we go to this point that science will never reach 100% truth, it's because every single model, every single hypothesis always has to begin with an underlying assumption. And while you function in this material reality, it's very, very important to do so. It simplifies the world for us, right? It simplifies the world for the mind. However, we have to understand that nothing is 100% true. And that's why you'll notice that science will discover something and then the next day it'll change its mind on it. How many times have you seen theories like contradict each other? the theory of relativity, then quantum physics comes out, and then some things don't make sense. This is the elusive nature of reality. It's always changing. Your life is always changing. But what we try to do is we try to hold on to life, right? A lot of people, a lot of our clients, they were successful in the past and they always try to go back to that state of like, I was making a lot of money in my trading, I was making a lot of money here, but then what happened? I sabotaged myself. But you can never go back. You can only evolve. Because all of these experiences that have happened to you where you were succeeding in the past, you have to use those to help you evolve into your next self. And so life is constantly in a process of becoming and being. The real question is, who are you becoming? Are you becoming in accordance to what you'd like to experience? Or are you trying to hold on to something that has already eluded, that has already passed? Okay? One big source of conflict that I always have, that I get a question from my clients, is the concept of fate versus free will. So when you start studying this stuff, you get deep into the rabbit hole. You ask, is fate true or is free will true? Do I actually have the choice to create my reality, or is it fate? Well, these are both models of reality. As such, nothing is absolutely true, right? So we can only be near the truth. The only truth is the truth that can be seen as it is. There is one truth and everything is relative to it. Okay, so when we go to fate versus free will, what do you think is true? You can leave me a comment down below, let me know. I'd love to know your thoughts. But a lot of people believe that, it's fate. Everything is fate, everything is destiny. There's no point doing anything, right? You might as well not do anything and just put one foot in front of the other and just live as you are. However, that is a very disempowering belief or view of the world to have, because I know when I believed that, it made me depressed. It made me feel like, what's the point of living if my life is just predestined? Where is the adventure? Where is the sense of me feeling like I am in control of my life? This is true to a certain extent, right? There are certain things that are true by your nature. You can't maybe change your appearance, right? You can't change your skin tone. I mean, with surgery, you can obviously do anything, but you are born with certain qualities, right? Certain qualities that karmically have been influenced, sure. However, you do have certain choices. The choice in what you choose to eat. The choice in if you choose to go to the gym or not. The choice in which you take that risk to start that business or not, right? Or you go back to your comfort zone. You always have a choice. You're always making decisions, right? So both are true. There is a certain element that is fate. You are destined to have a certain few things and experience a certain few things. However, you still have a choice. You can experience something else entirely. So we come into this earth, ancient yogic knowledge. Basically, if you get deeper down into the rabbit hole, into Patanjali's teachings in the Yoga Sutras, you'll know that karmically we come into this world to experience an unfulfilled desire. The reason you took this womb, of your mother and was born into this particular family in this epoch, in this era, in this time, was because your soul felt that this body was the most conducive for you to achieve your goal. Therefore, the goal that was meant for you, that you came to fulfill, your life's purpose, your life's mission, in this lifetime, it is achievable. There's only two steps. You need to A, find it, find your true purpose, what you're meant to do, and get rid of false conditioning, what society tells you to do. And two, you need to move forward towards it. Okay, you need to put one foot in front of the other towards it. If those things happen, then you will fulfill your life's purpose. You just need to get out of the way. And moving one foot in front of the other, putting one foot in front of the other, is actually getting out of the way for its realization. It was your fate to come into this lifetime to experience what you wanted to experience joy, love, peace, to transcend this life, because that's what your soul comes in for. It comes in to achieve these goals so you can transcend them, so you don't need to desire them anymore, so you can go beyond goals and start to inquire into the true nature of reality. Look beyond the veil. Okay? So, the next point that he talks about, suffering comes from forgetting. Okay, when you were a kid, when you were before the age of 4, do you remember suffering? If you look at children, they'll cry for a bit, they will feel pain, but they will not suffer. Pain is necessary for survival. Suffering is not. Suffering is perpetual pain, pain that occurs within the mind, unconscious pain, Conscious pain leads to growth. Unconscious pain leads to suffering and stagnation. Okay? So, what is conscious pain? You may be asking. Well, conscious pain is when you decide to grow, when you decide to go to the gym, when you decide to take uncomfortable leaps. You chose this. You either choose pain or you wait for the pain to become unbearable. There's two types of people in the world, right? One type of person waits for the pain to get bad enough before they do something. The other kind of person is proactive. They can see what will happen. The second kind of person is conscious. The first kind of person is unconscious. And so the unconscious person, when they become successful, they typically suffer their success because they don't know how they did it. They don't know how it happened. They created it unconsciously, right? They didn't choose it, at least not fully. The second kind of person becomes successful consciously. Even if they lose it, it doesn't matter. They can recreate it because they've done it once. Okay? So, suffering comes from forgetting your true nature. If you'd like to be a reality creator, you want to create your own life, the only way, the most sustainable way to do this is by first inquiring into your true nature. Always having one eye, one part of you, rooted and grounded in your true nature. Realizing that this material world and the character that you're playing, it is not you. It is simply a character that you're playing. That is your true nature. Never forget that nature, that sense of I am, the sense that there is a watching right now. Even as you're watching this video, there is a watching happening, right? The character is watching the video. All of these bad things that happen to you in your life, it is happening to the character. Okay? It is not happening to you. You are beyond it. If you imagine this as a play and a game, there is a character and there is someone in the audience, the auditorium, who's watching. And if you remember maybe watching a movie, a scary movie, right? When you're watching the movie, you feel terrified about what's going to happen. But then the moment you look away from the screen and you realize, I'm here now. There is an existence, right? There is someone watching the movie. This is only just a movie. When you realize that, what happens? You're no longer the movie. You're no longer the character in the movie. You're beyond it. It ceases to be scary anymore. So right now, if in your life you're going through something, you're experiencing something that is undesired, undesirable, step into the witness mode. Watch. Just watch this play happen. Don't resist. Don't fight it. The more you resist it, the stronger it grows. So, the final thing Hoffman talks about is learning to edit the code of reality. Okay, what does he say? He says, reality doesn't exist as a fixed objective thing out there. It only comes into being when you perceive it. Okay? Like a VR game rendering objects only when the player looks at them. What you see is what your consciousness generates, not what objectively exists. Now, here's a crucial point, something applicable for you. We all have perceptions, perceptions through which we view the world and we view ourselves in it. Okay? So there is a worldview which is your paradigm, and there is your self-view, which is your identity. Now, when we view the world to be a place where it is not conducive for me to achieve my goals, then that is what will be manifest. When I view myself as the kind of person who's not good enough to achieve my goals, then that is what will be manifest. Okay? This is the mirror principle of reality. What is the commonality between your worldview and your self-view? It is the view. It is your attitude to something. Your attitude is what creates your reality. And it is not necessarily the nature of your attitude, it is the content in your attitude. So for example, if I hate something, I will get more of it. I hate failure, I will get more of failure. If I keep focusing on failing, which is the content of my thoughts, then that's what I will get. If I focus on how I love making money and succeeding, then succeeding and making money is what I'll get. If I feel grateful for all of the wonderful things I have in my life, I will get more wonderful things, right? So that is the mirror of reality. The mirror reflects the purified content of your attitude and your thoughts, okay? So whatever it is you're thinking about, the purified content of it, the focus on the object of it, not the context of it, is what gets reflected. So whatever I hate, I will get more of, and whatever I love, I will get more of. So that is what Hoffman is talking about. What is generated in reality is the content of our focus. So right now, just ask yourself, what have you been predominantly focused on? Have you predominantly been focused on complaining and how things don't go well and how everything is falling apart? Or are you focusing on what you're grateful for, what you have, what you would like to have, right? It is better to 51% or more of the time focus on what you want rather than what you don't want. And then you'll move towards that. I actually made a comprehensive video on the mirror principle. There are 7 main laws of the mirror principle. I made a comprehensive video on it. You can literally access it right here if you click right here. But with that, I conclude this video. Thank you for watching. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you thought of this. All of my links are in the description. I would love to hear what you've been thinking. And guys, if this was helpful to you, please share this with a friend so they will benefit as well. I'm trying to get the message out there to help as many people as possible. Our mission here is to help every single human being on earth to master their destiny. So if you share this with a friend, it'll be really, really helpful for us to share our mission, but I'm also sure they will watch it because you shared it with a friend, okay? So if you would like to watch the mirror principle video, that is the next thing I would recommend. That is going to teach you how to shape your attitude correctly and present it to the mirror. And out of working with over 1,800 paying clients, we've seen that the mirror principle has been one of the fundamental thing that's made the shift happen for people. So if you want to access that, the link for that is right here, the end screen, one of these 2 places, and I'll see you in this next video right now. Thanks.